A civil rights group, AfriForum, is demanding an urgent investigation into a shocking incident in Mpumalanga where 95 Libyan nationals allegedly linked to a militant group were found undergoing military training at an illegal camp in White River. These individuals reportedly entered South Africa on fraudulent visas issued by the South African Embassy in Tunis. Now, AfriForum highlights this as a severe failure of government agencies, particularly the Department of Home Affairs and the Department of International Relations. The civil rights group is concerned about the involvement of South African officials in allowing these militants to enter the country, calling it a direct threat to national security. And now joining us on the news to discuss this is Chief Spokesperson for Community Safety AfriForum, Jacques Broodryk. Thank you, Jacques, for joining us.
Good afternoon. Thank you very much for the invitation.
Good afternoon to you too. My pleasure. Now, Jacques, what exactly are the key actions that AfriForum believes the South African government should take immediately to secure the country's borders and as well prevent similar incidents from happening?
Well, I think that's a very broad discussion. South Africa's border control is in a dire straits, to put it lightly, in general. But if we look at this specific case, I think what immediately needs to happen is that a full-scale independent investigation has to be launched into this. So we have seen government come forward and say that they have started a multi-pronged investigation to find out how this exactly happened. But it needs to be very thorough. It needs to be independent. Civil society organizations need to get involved to monitor the process, to make sure that it's transparent, because unfortunately we know that the South African government has a track record of not acting on corruption issues because so many top officials are involved in those dealings.
Right. And how confident is AfriForum at this moment that an independent investigation into this matter would be free from political influence, and that's why it should be independent? How do you suggest ensuring this?
Yeah, we're not very confident at this stage at all that it will be totally free from political influence. And that's why it's important to get non-political parties, non-political players involved in the investigation. People like AfriForum, for instance, and other civil rights organizations need to be kept in the loop with what's happening in this investigation. It needs to be absolutely transparent. We need to see what's going on, how the investigation is proceeding, and where this investigation leads, because it cannot be that it can stop at one government official in Tunis. There's a reason why that embassy was selected to be infiltrated. There's a reason why those militants got all their visas issued from there, why it was easy to do it from there. So this is going to be a very broad investigation, and transparency is going to be absolutely key.
So without trying to project, we are trying to ensure that these kind of breaches do not happen again in the future. Now, what specific reforms does AfriForum propose for the Department of Home Affairs and, of course, the Department of International Relations to prevent future occurrences of such breaches?
Unfortunately, there is a culture in the South African government of non-accountability, especially when it comes to corruption, and that needs to stop now. There needs to be accountability. When people make themselves guilty of these types of actions and they get involved in corruption, they need to get fired, they need to get prosecuted, there needs to be criminal processes put in place for that. And that is something that the South African government tends to ignore. We've seen this happen in the past with ambassadors, for instance, that cause a muck abroad, and then they simply get shipped to a new embassy in another country with absolutely no consequences. And that has created a culture that is perpetuating these issues, that is ultimately leading to the decline of the country and the threat to our national states of security.
Now, in your view, Jacques, how does this incident reflect on the broader issue of corruption within South Africa's government agencies, and what long-term solutions does AfriForum advocate for?
I think we are very fortunate in South Africa that we have a very strong civil society organizations, various of them. The civil society movement in South Africa is pretty strong, and they tend to keep government accountable to the best of their abilities. If it wasn't for that, I think we would have been in a lot worse situation than we currently are. Because as I mentioned before, we have unfortunately created this culture of corruption and culture of incompetence and unaccountability that the government has been fostering, because most top politicians are involved in things that they shouldn't be involved in, and therefore they protect each other and they look out for each other. So we're going to have to keep on fighting this fight from civil society side, and the good, honest, hardworking people are still left, need to keep on fighting this fight, and we need to put an end to this culture of corruption that has been created.
All right, Chief Spokesperson for Community Safety AfriForum, Jacques Broodryk, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much.